breaking news for the San Antonio Spurs. They have traded for Kelly Olynyk from the Washington Wizards. They gave up Malachi Branham, Blake Wesley, and a 2022 second-round pick, least favorable of Dallas, Philadelphia, and Oklahoma City. So this was kind of unexpected. I did not expect the Spurs to make a trade like this. There was no rumblings of this. There was no rumblings of Kelly Olynyk to the Spurs. There was no rumblings of the Spurs in any trade talks at all, in any trade talks for a big. So I was like completely shocked when I first saw it. What first initial reaction was like, we lost Malachi and Blake. I really thought maybe one of them would have a spot on this team and down the line, but that is now obviously out of the question. So with this, as far as the Wizards go, I didn't even know they had Kelly Olynyk, honestly. I'm not going to lie. They're getting Malachi and Blake, who I really think do have good potential. Will they live up to their potential? I do not know. But they're both rookie extension eligible up until October 20th. The Wizards, I believe, have too many players on their team now. So that will be interesting to see what they do with all those young guys that they have over there. But I like what the Wizards are doing. And I do like this trade for the Spurs. I still am trying to wrap my head around it. But there's a couple things I want to talk about involving this trade. Obviously, the fact that we're losing Malachi and Blake hurts for us Spurs fans, but realistically, they weren't going to get playing time anyway. I feel like most Spurs fans love both of them, especially Blake Wesley. Last season, when he did get minutes, he's just a good player who plays hard defense, gives it his all, hustles on both ends of the floor. And then Malachi, who when he did get his opportunities, was a really good secondary ball handler, was a great three-point shooter, but it just never worked out in San Antonio. I hope they get a chance to shine in Washington. So as for the Spurs team, we get Kelly Olynyk, who has played, 10 plus seasons now? I think he's like 33, 34, something like that. He is a power forward. He can play center at 6'11", and that is important because we just got Luke Cornett and now we have Kelly Olynyk, so I'll get into that in a second. But if you look at his stats last year, he played for the Raptors and the Pelicans. His stats with the Pelicans are much better because he actually got playing time, 25 minutes per game as opposed to 16 minutes per game with the Raptors. So I'm going to go over his minutes with the Pelicans. He averaged 10.7 points, 5.9 rebounds, 3.6 assists, 0.6 blocks, and 0.9 steals. So he's not a big who's going to really clog up the paint or even be a true shot blocker, but he is a stretch big who can shoot the three ball. Last season with both teams, with Toronto and New Orleans, he shot 42% from three on 2.5 threes per night. And in years past, he shot 38.7%. He had a down year, 33.8%, 42.9%, 39.4%. Most of his career, he's been a good three-point shooter. And again, some of the Spurs have been adding. I've been saying it all offseason. We needed defense, we needed rebounding, we needed three-point shooting. Those are the things we really struggled with, especially when Victor was out of the equation. We really struggled with rebounding, defense, and three-point shooting also when we didn't have that stretch five out there. The Spurs are addressing that, obviously. With Kelly Olynyk, you get someone who, again, is not going to score the most, but we don't need him to. And it's kind of good that he's not scoring a lot because we want our other young guys to score. Victor Wembanyama, De'Aaron Fox, Dylan Harper, Stephon Castle, Devin Vassell, all those guys. He's going to be a good rebounder, and then he's going to stretch the floor for us too. So that's huge. And where does Kelly Olynyk fit on this Spurs team? I will make a video probably tomorrow or the next day about what my updated Spurs depth chart will look like next season. Let me know down below if y'all want me to make that video, because I do think it's interesting looking at the Spurs roster now, just to give a little insight to what I think the Spurs are going to do. Before this trade, the Spurs had, I believe, 12 guys on the roster, and we're saying what are we gonna do with those last 3 spots, which I have an idea of how they're gonna fill up the last 5 spots now that Malachi and Blake are gone, or 4 spots now because we're getting Kelly Olynyk. So we now have 11 guys on this roster who, again, with these 11 guys, one player is not going to get minutes, sadly. That's the way it looks anyway. We have Carter Bryant, we have Jeremy Sohan, we have Stephon Castle, Dylan Harper, Julian Champagnie, Luke Cornett, Keldon Johnson, Harrison Barnes, Devin Vassell, De'Aaron Fox, Wemby, and now Kelly Olynyk. So it's actually 12 guys. Yeah, so I still don't know what the Spurs are doing with this roster. Again, I will make a depth chart video in the future. But now, I think it's pretty clear one of the reasons, at least, why the Spurs would do this. One, obviously, get something out of Malachi and Blake because they weren't going to get any minutes on this team anyway next year. It didn't seem like they had a future with this team. It clearly looks like the Spurs don't want Victor Wembanyama to have to worry about playing a traditional center role. And what do I mean by that? Last year, the Spurs really relied on Wemby to be that center, to be that big man. We didn't have a true reliable backup. We had Charles Bassey, Sandro Mamukelashvili, Bismack Biyombo later in the year. The Spurs really didn't have another big besides Victor. We sometimes played Jeremy Sohan as the backup 5, which I thought was dumb, but whatever. Victor clearly is not a traditional center because of his three-point shooting, because of his handles, because of his good passing. Just the unicorn, alien, whatever you want to call him. He cannot be defined as just a 5. Now that we got Luke Cornett and Kelly Olynyk, it looks like the Spurs are still working on what Wemby is and what he can be, especially offensively. We know what Victor Wembanyama was going to be defensively from the gate. I believe he's the best defender in the league right now. But now with Kelly Olynyk and Luke Cornett, you're not limiting Wemby to being that big that he has to be. He has to be that traditional 5. You can now run lineups with Kelly Olynyk out there and Victor Wembanyama, or Victor Wembanyama and Luke Cornett, where Victor can kind of play the 4 spot and guard the 4s and roam and block shots. You could even have some really crazy lineups with Olynyk at the 3, Victor Wembanyama at the 4, Cornett at the 5. It just goes super big, which would be interesting to see. But yeah, to me, it seems like the Spurs are really focusing on, 1, winning and getting better, and 2, just letting Victor Wembanyama shine and flourish and truly take the reins of this team next year. The Spurs expect to be in the playoffs next year. I think they will, even in a tight West. I think they'll at least make the play-in. That's my prediction. If I had to guess, I think they're anywhere from 8 to 12 in the tough West. I could see them being as good as a 6 seed. And the worst, again, I think they can be is the 12th seed. So, for me, again, I like the trade in the sense that we're getting another quality player. I don't know what the Spurs are doing with the rest of this roster. But again, I will make a video on that probably tomorrow, if not very soon. Let me know what you Spurs fans think about this trade. Are you sad to see Malachi and Blake go? What do you think will be the updated depth chart for this Spurs team with Kelly Olynyk on the roster now? Let me know what you agree with, disagree with on my takes about this. Let me know down in the comment section below. I'd love to hear from you guys.